What we're going to be beginning, of course, with Nigeria is another week of fuel scarcity, where you've got issues with supply. You've got a number of Nigerians facing, of course, the increased prices from the NNPC, which, of course, has announced, at least as its stations, 855 naira per litre. What does that mean going forward? There is also the ongoing debate as to whether or not that is the open market price for fuel. And then, of course, there is the Dangote Refinery. When they put out a statement not too long ago stating that the NNPC is yet to lift any crude from its stations. I'm going to find out when that is going to take place. So let's have this conversation with Mr. Bismarck Rewane, Managing Director, CEO of Financial Derivatives Company Limited. I'm so happy to see you this evening, sir. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Another pressing matter. Not sure where to begin. I guess to start, what do you make of what we've seen so far with the NNPC repricing fuel upwards?
First of all, let's go back to basic economics.
Yes.
There's a market. If you have one supplier and many buyers, it's called a monopoly. That's bad. When you have one buyer and many sellers, it's called monopoly, right? That's bad.
Yeah.
What you have today is what we call bilateral monopoly. That's the worst form of imperfect markets. One buyer, one seller. They would negotiate and nobody knows. They could fix prices, they could do anything. So, one, you have a state-owned monopoly, NNPC, buying from a privately owned, so to speak, monopoly, Dangote. Now, the price. So what is given is that Dangote will producing crude, refined products. NNPC is also importing refined products. NNPC has the opportunity of benchmarking its price against the import, the price of crude.
Yep.
And NNPC has the bargaining power that they're owned by the government, and Dangote Group are subjects of this government. Now, so they would leverage. But typically in any market, there are what we call price leaders and price followers. NNPC, mind you, has an option to buy up to 20% of the stake in Dangote, but now has exercised only 7% of the option. So in any case, NNPC has a stake in the supply and has a stake in the purchase. So NNPC is in a very strong position. But at the same time, NNPC is vulnerable because NNPC is actually offering its products at lower than its marginal cost. In other words, 855, 897 is not the landed cost of petroleum products. NNPC has the leverage to supply crude to Dangote Refinery or to withhold the supply. So NNPC is in a strong but delicate position. So let's play the normal. Today, the average price of refined petroleum in Nigeria should be the price of diesel. Diesel is deregulated, liberalized.
Right.
So let's use it as a benchmark. 1,210 naira. NNPC is selling at sub 900. So there's 320 naira to go. If Dangote wants to sell and bypass NNPC to them, he would have to sell at a price equal to what NNPC is selling, which is 900, and we lose 300 naira per liter.
Right.
So if that happens, the NNPC, the Dangote Refinery, which is the largest single-train refinery in the world and the biggest investment in this country, will run into serious difficulties. So they need to come together and have that conversation. Because in any case, they are partners, they're equity partners.
In fact, I need to play a clip for you. My colleague Ayo Mairo essay on the morning show. This what you've talked about now with just one buyer, one seller, was mentioning the fact that oil marketers are not happy that they don't get to be able to buy from the Dangote Refinery. So let's play that clip for you here.
Good point you're about to make, because even with the Dangote Refinery coming on stream, the criticism has been that NNPC is going to be the sole, they're going to sell to NNPC solely. And marketers have come out to protest that, saying that why should they have monopoly on that?
So, I mean, you defined it when you started. So, what about the other marketers in the space?
The other marketers can only buy either from Dangote or from NNPC. And that's why I call it a bilateral monopoly. It's a very dangerous market structure.
Yeah.
So market structure, to a large extent, determines the price. But it will not be a fair price if the market structure is imperfect. So what you have is the most imperfect structure. So what do we have to do? We have to allow Dangote as the price leader to determine its price based on its cost. Then we have to ensure that its cost or its price is not that far higher than its landed cost. 1. 2, if Dangote is to sell its petrol at 1,200 or 1,300, and NNPC is selling at 900, obviously there's an arbitrage corridor there.
Right.
2, what is the impact of that extra 300 naira on the purchasing power and the stability of this country? So somebody has to pick the chestnut out of the fire. And the reality is that the only person who can pick that chestnut out of the fire is NNPC. So NNPC says, why should I do that? So let's dial back.
Right.
Heineken Olopobiri says, we don't fix prices. NNPC says, well, we are watching the market and setting price. Dangote says, NNPC, you have not supplied me crude. In any case, I need to blend my crude to be able to refine. And who gets screwed in all of this? The consumers.
Right.
So they've been screwed big time.
The whole conversation around Nigeria's fiscal structure not being able to afford subsidies versus the people. People, of course, have been complaining about these higher prices, what it's going to mean for cost of living. How does one strike a balance?
Well, let me say, subsidies never went. Subsidies will never go. So subsidies are reverse taxes. It depends on what are you subsidizing. So the subsidies will remove, this increase in price alone will remove 3 to 4 trillion naira from the pockets of the people. Right? And that's huge. Now, what will the government do with it? And how will these people who are in penury? The Nigerian citizen has been living on a shoestring. Quite frankly, there's on a shoestring right now. So how are you going to deploy this money so that they can feel the effect? Because basically you're taking consumers' money and giving it to the government. The government does 3 things with it. Applies it for the people's good. 2, wastes it. 3, leakages and stealing it. All 3 are dangerous. So that money has to be redeployed back into the system through the corporate vehicles. If that happens, the government would have spent money on, say, education, medical, and all of that. The corporate entities will provide that to the people, and the people will be better off. But at this time, we are in transition, and nobody is telling the truth. Everybody knows it, but it's on everybody's mind, but not on nobody's lips. That's the problem.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on the other refineries, the government-owned ones? There's still the turnaround maintenance happening for Port Harcourt, Kaduna.
Those are dead ducks. There's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
The only saving grace is that you have modular refineries. In any case, the refining business is high volume, thin margin.
Right.
So the worst that will happen is that we will import refined crude from Rotterdam and anywhere, which is what we do. What we do now is that we export our crude, and in exchange they give us refined products.
Yeah.
The exchange ratio, nobody knows. But it's one of the most opaque market structures and practices in the world. But Nigerians didn't mind as long as they got the petrol. They didn't have to queue. Now, they are queuing, they are burning time, and they are paying through their noses.
Right.
That's why I'm saying the Nigerian consumer is being screwed big time. Now it's time to bring all of that to an halt. So what are we doing? The NNPC is being commercialized, probably liberalized for more competition. Whenever that happens, Dangote is under pressure to make sure he produces at an efficient price. In any case, he's done that in diesel, done that in kerosene, done that in aviation fuel. So there's no reason why he cannot do that in PMS. What will happen is that we are told that 68 million liters a day is what we use, but that is absolutely false. At best guesstimates is at least 38 million liters. So there's at least 20 to 30 million liters of recycled smuggling activity. If you take that out, the government will have more revenue, the people will have a better price, and the refineries will actually do well. And Aliko will be able to supply refined products across the whole of West Africa. But if he gets screwed here, he will not only be able, not satisfy the Nigerian market, the 22 to $23 billion investment will go down the tube. It will go the same way as the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries if the market structure is not allowed to make it thrive. So what do we have to do? We have to have a pricing mechanism. If NNPC has to buy at a higher price and subsidize Dangote so that win-win, Dangote makes his money, stays in production, NNPC satisfies the people, and in the meantime, we look for how to, over time, reduce the subsidy. Mind you, you just said it now, $71 a barrel. Therefore, the price cannot be 1,300 anymore. Because the drop from 81 to 71 is more than a 15% drop in the price of the feeder stock. Therefore, we should see a 15% drop in the price. So instead of, if it was 1,000, we should be seeing it at 850.
Yeah, right.
But nobody talks about that when the global price goes down. When once it goes up, oh yes, you know the global price. So this kind of convenient argument, right, or selective inattention, if I may use that term, doesn't do anybody any good. I always say that there's a short supply of truth in this country.
Gotcha. I thank you for preempting my next question. And quickly, on the upstream side, because last time I had you on the Global Business Report, you were talking about the break-even point for Nigeria being anywhere from 85. So with that's downstream, going upstream now, with where things are, what does that do to Nigeria's fiscal structure?
Bad news.
Yeah, bad news.
First of all, your production is
low.
You're underperforming on the production side. Now the price is slitting your throat. So for now, that supplementary budget has to be revised. That is if it stays at 71. But if the geopolitical tension eases off in Gaza, if the pressure on OPEC to bring down prices because of the US election, because these guys, the Democrats, need the price of oil
to be low.
And because price of refined products in the US now is about $3.69. If it can go down to $3.50, bingo, that's Kamala Harris who's already in the White House. So that is, and they are in charge of things. So they'll be working in that direction. And therefore, we should get ready for a long fall season.
Gosh. Mr. Rewane, it's always a pleasure having you on the show to get your wisdom on these things. Bismarck Rewane, of course, the MD CEO of Financial Derivatives Company Limited, renowned economist. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Really appreciate it.